Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and Pokemon fans of the world, Mega Crasher is back with part 2 of another top 10 trivia for Pokemon. And this is going to be in Generation 1, hence why the part 2. So, with that being said, if you guys haven't seen the last video that I did, part 1, I'll leave a link in the description box down below in case you want to check that out and see what this is all about. But just as a reminder, what this is all about is where I pick and read out Pokemon's trivia facts that are actually really interesting. Now, of course, this video is not going to cover every single Pokemon. What I did is I read through each Pokemon's trivia and I thought, okay, out of all of these Pokemon, I need to pick 10 of them that are of very interesting trivia bits. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this top 10 list, and please don't be offended if your favorite Pokemon doesn't happen to be on this list. I do apologize. No disrespect towards that Pokemon, but the choices here are strictly opinionated. So with that being said, let's get into number 10! So coming in at number 10 is going to revolve around Alakazam. More specifically, Mega Alakazam. And this situation is very unique because Mega Alakazam has the highest base special attack stat of all non-legendary Pokemon, and actually the highest speed stat of all non-legendary Psychic type Pokemon, with base 175 special attack and base 150 speed respectively. That is a big reason to shit your pants when you face this thing in battle, because this thing, after one Calm Mind boost, GG. It's done. Over. Calm Mind with that speed and the ultimate coverage moves, amazing. Goodbye. GG. It should also be noted that Alakazam is the only Pokemon whose base stat total did not increase by exactly 100 points upon Mega Evolving, gaining only 90 points overall. That's really weird. Some people say, well, it's because of the fact that it got an extra 10 base special defense points upon 6th generation. Well, if that's the case, shouldn't they have done the same thing for Mega Pidgeot? Mega Pidgeot had a 10 points base speed increase, but the thing of it is, when it Mega Evolved, it gained a whole 100 base stat points. So, can someone please explain to me what went wrong here? I don't quite understand. But, with that being said, that covers number 10. Let's move on to number 9. So coming in at number 9 is going to revolve around Victreebel. And in Generation 1, Victreebel had the highest index number of all non-glitched Pokemon. Wow, that's actually pretty awesome. And a really rare and awesome fact to know about that, actually. I mean, a lot of people don't think about things like this when it comes to Pokemon, but I find that when you read up on things like this in a different sort of manner, like rather than reading about base stats and types and comparisons and stuff like that, reading about things like index numbers and glitches and stuff like that when it comes to trivia is actually very interesting. So I just thought that in this situation, Victreebel just had to be on the list. So that's why Victreebel made it to the list at number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Alright, so coming in at number 8 is going to revolve around Tentacruel. Check this out. In the Pokemon Red and Blue beta versions, Tentacruel was originally known as Man-O-War. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because there's a jellyfish species known as Man-of-War, and Man-O-War for Tentacruel, considering it's a jellyfish, it kind of makes sense. But to be honest with you, I like the name Tentacruel a lot better. It's so much more appropriate, so much more fitting because of its look and how it's portrayed in the anime and in the games. It is so badass. Tenta, meaning Tentacool, Cruel, meaning cruel in nature, and this thing is a cruel thing to face down in battle because this thing just does not die. And speaking of appearances, Tentacruel is one of the very few Pokemon that appears in every regional Pokedex, with the exception of the Unova Pokedex. That's 5 out of 6 generations that this thing appears, and it's like, I don't give a shit if it's a new generation. I'm gonna appear because I'm cool like that. So that right there is what's going to wrap up Tentacruel for number 8. No pun intended, because Tentacruels do rap. Same with rappers, they rap. Anyways, let's move on to number 7. So coming in at number 7 is actually going to be revolving around Golem. Golem is a very, very unique Pokemon, and was definitely one of the most dangerous Pokemon back in its generation, Generation 1. Golem was the only Pokemon that could not be seen in the Pokedex without trading. However, its existence was implied by a non-player character who had just received his friend's Graveler. So, we should all note that Graveler, upon being traded, evolves into Golem, and that is the only way that you will be able to see, let alone obtain, a Golem in the red and blue versions of Pokemon. Venusaur, if the players started with Charmander, either Kabutops or Omastar, and Magmar in the Pokemon Red, and Electabuzz in Pokemon Blue would also be missing. But Golem was the only Pokemon that was a definite, absolute Pokemon that was missing regardless, whether it be through battling, or whether it be through appearances in the wild, or through in-game trades. There was no way that you'd be able to trade in-game with another trainer who is trading to you a Graveler. The only way for you to obtain a Golem in the game would be to trade with a friend, and therefore it would evolve. That's pretty interesting. I actually didn't know that until I looked it up. Wow. So, with that being said, that is going to wrap up Golem's entry at number 7. Let's move on to number 6. So coming in at number 6 is going to revolve around Rapidash. And this is more of a base trivia here, because Rapidash is the favorite Pokemon of the Kanto Pokemon Fan Club chairman. When the player first speaks to him, he goes on and on and on and on and on about how Rapidash is his favorite Pokemon and just never seemingly seems to shut up. Painfully enough, that was the only way you could get a bike voucher in that generation, so I was just thinking, okay, I get it. You love Rapidash. You love Rapidash. But can you please give me my damn bike voucher? That's what I'd be thinking. Not to be rude or anything, but seriously. Then again, I didn't really have that much patience when I was a kid, so yeah. I mean, I might be able to handle things a little bit differently now that I'm an adult, but even still, looking back, I was annoyed as hell. Anyways, that right there is a big reason why Rapidash makes this list at number 6. Let's move on to number 5. So coming in at number 5 is going to revolve around Mega Slowbro in this first part. Mega Slowbro is tied with Cloyster for the highest base defense stat of all water Pokemon. It should also be noted that Mega Slowbro has access to the highest base defense stat of any Psychic type Pokemon with a fat base 180 defense. Yeah, that thing will eat up your best physical hit for lunch. Yum 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 yum. So, despite it being a commonly known and accepted fact that Shelter triggers the evolution of Slowpoke into Slowbro, it should be mentioned that despite it being mentioned in most Pokedex entries, this thing is not depicted in the game needing to be evolved via Shelter. It evolves via level up. This does not, however, apply to the likes of Mantike, as it needs to have a Remoraid in party in order for it to evolve into Mantine. So that right there is just something I thought I'd share, and pretty damn interesting at that. So with that being said, let's move on to number 4. So coming in at number 4 is actually going to be revolving around Magneton, and there's a lot to cover for Magneton when it comes to trivia. Damn, it's interesting, so sit back, relax, because you're about to get a mouthful of it. So, Magneton, along with its pre-evolution Magnemite, were pure electric type back in Generation 1, but became the dual electric steel type in Generation 2, making it the first ever Pokemon to have a type changing, and the only Pokemon ever to do so until Generation 5, when the Rotom forms were given an additional typing. Rather than them being electric and ghost, they negated ghost typing completely and made it electric, and if you have a Rotom Wash, for example, electric and water, or if you have Rotom Heat, electric and fire, you get the idea. Also, it should be noted that Magneton has been used by more rival characters than any other Pokemon, being used by 3, that being Blue, that being Silver, and being Wally. And I gotta say that Magneton is definitely a Pokemon that will not let you down. Sure, it's got base semi-speed. Sure, it has a 4 times weakness to ground-type moves. But speaking of weaknesses, check this out. Magneton and its evolutionary line have 11 resistances and 1 immunity, making them and the Honedge evolutionary line tied for the most resistances of Pokemon to date, as no other Pokemon have a higher total amount of resistances and immunity. And it should also be noted that with the addition of Magnet Rise, which makes them immune to ground-type moves for 5 turns, gets rid of their only 4 times weakness to ground. So what were you saying again about trying to Earthquake my ass there, Excadrill? That's not gonna happen with Magnet Rise, bro. You're gonna have to try again. Although it is said that Magneton is made up of 3 Magnemites, there is some contradictory evidence seen in various forms of media, not only in the game, but in the anime as well. For example, in the anime, when Ethan's Magnemite evolves into Magneton, it creates 2 Magnemites during the evolution, instead of combining with 2 real Magnemites. However, in the Pokemon Snap game, you will notice that in order for you to snap a picture of a Magneton, you would have to herd 3 Magnemites together in order for them to evolve. Does that make sense? Make up your mind! Pick your poison! It should also be noted that Magnemite's weight was at 13.2 pounds, but when it comes to it evolving, it is literally 10 times the amount of its original weight. How does that make any sense? How, like, did Magnemite suddenly gain weight or something? Did it get bigger before evolving? Like, I don't understand it. That's something that doesn't make sense in Pokemon, and that's something that I'm not sure if I've exactly covered that yet, but I'm definitely going to be making another top 10 video of things that make no sense in Pokemon. And that's something that makes no sense. So, with that being said, that right there was your mouthful for Magneton. Let's move on to number 3. So coming in at number 3 happens to be Dodrio, and how fitting that a Pokemon like this is 3, because it's got 3 heads. Despite it not having wings, Dodrio and its pre-evolutionary line is able to learn Steel Wing and Fly. Does it have, like, invisible wings or some shit like that? I don't understand how a Pokemon with no visible wings can learn wing and flying type moves, whereas you got Pokemon like Charizard back in the first generation could not learn Fly. Scyther couldn't learn Fly. Yeah, that's more stuff that makes no sense. And something else that makes no sense is, according to its Pokedex entry, Doduo can run at 60 miles an hour, while Dodrio can run at nearly 40 miles an hour. And yet, it seems to have a higher base stat total in the speed of 110. Does that make sense? I'm not exactly sure what's going on here with this logic, but it reminds me of how Escavalier in the Pokedex entry says that it can fly around at high speeds. Yeah, except its base stat speed is fucking 20. So what's your definition of fast in your little Pokedex world there, Pokedex? I don't quite understand you. So, with that being said, that wraps up number 3. Let's move on to number 2. So coming in at number 2 is going to revolve around Muk. Muk is a very interesting Pokemon in so many ways. Here's one of them. Although Muk's body is very poisonous, it doesn't seem to harm Ash and the others whenever Muk is hugging them. I wonder why that is. This is probably because of the fact that it's able to control whether it gives off poison or not, similar to how Ponyta can choose whether or not to burn the person that touches it. Croagunk is another example of a Pokemon which is able to control the amount of poison it uses via using its fingertips when it uses Poison Jab on poor old Bronco when it's flirting with women, or Sharpedo to activate its rough skin ability in the anime. Muk is also tied with Mew for the shortest name out of all the Pokemon. It should also be noted that if you flip around Muk's name, it is, well, I'll leave that up to your imagination. I don't want to, I want to keep this PG-13, okay? You should also state that Muk shares a similar trait to Weezing and Garbodor, All 3 Pokemon are pure Poison type with a single pre-evolution, roughly the same base stat totals and evolution levels, and appear to be based off of different kinds of pollution. Muck, for example, being water pollution. So that right there is how Muck makes it to number 2 on this list. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on to number 1! So coming in at number 1 is going to be revolving around Gengar. Gengar, without a shadow of a doubt, with its Mega Evolution, has got to be one of my favorite designs ever. And speaking of favorites, did you know that Gengar is the favorite Pokemon of Ken Sugimori? That is actually really awesome to know. And Gengar, or I should say Mega Gengar, with that shiny color palette being pure white ghost and that menacing stare, oh my god. It's, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the absolute best ever. Best concepts, best designs, best shiny color, best everything. Amazing. Speaking of Mega Gengar, did you know that it has the highest special attack stat of all Ghost and Poison type Pokemon with base 170, and also has the highest base speed stat out of all Ghost type Pokemon at 130. Speaking of base stats, Mega Gengar has the highest base stat total of all non-legendary Ghost type Pokemon at even 600. This thing is legendary in its own way though, because it got banned at Ubers, not only because of its really high special attack stat, its really good type coverage, but also because of that damn ability Shadow type, which got banned from OU recently. Thank God! Hate dealing with that shit. Anyways, it should also be noted that there's no other Pokemon that has the same type combination of Ghost and Poison other than Gengar, Haunter, and Ghastly. But due to its unique type combination, Gengar and its evolutionary relatives are the only Ghost-type Pokemon that are weak to Psychic moves, and also the only Poison-type Pokemon that are weak to Dark-type moves. So, that right there is pretty interesting to know. And it should also be noted that when viewing Mega Gengar's Pokedex entry, the camera's view cannot be moved. I wonder why that is. That is actually very strange. So, that right there is what makes Gengar number 1 on this list. Damn, it's awesome. Woo! Yeah! So that right there is what's going to cap off this part 2 video of Top 10 Trivia for Pokemon in Generation 1. Now, obviously, there will be a part 3, because we just barely covered a little over half of the Pokedex for Generation 1. So you definitely will bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be more to come. So if you enjoyed this video, then please feel free to give this a thumbs up. And also be sure to comment, rate, subscribe to Mega Crasher in the community, because you know the deal by now. When we're a community tightly knit as one, we shine brighter than the sun, baby. So thank you guys for watching this. Be sure to also follow me on Twitter, links are in the description box down below. Follow me on Google Plus and add me on the Mega Madhouse. You want to join the Mega Madhouse? Then all you gotta do is just click the link down below and you'll go there. It's also a good way to keep in contact with me easier if you want to shoot the shit or whatever you want. If you need advice or something. Someone to talk to, and I'll be there as soon as I can. So thank you guys for watching. I shall see you guys next upload!